Thank- Thanks so much, Deb. So as Deb, I'll just do a quick introduction. My name is Camille Kerr, and I'm a worker co-op consultant, solidarity economy consultant, and co-op developer. Been around for about 10 years in this field, a little bit more than a decade, and based here in Chicago, although I've also been in the Bay Area and Massachusetts before doing co-op development in those spaces. And I helped co-found ChiFresh Kitchen alongside the founding members and our founding advisory board and development team. So I'll let Adrina introduce herself too.
I'm Adrina Bryant. I'm one of the co-owners of ChiFresh. I'm the chef here.
And she makes real good food. All right, so we want to give you an introduction to ChiFresh Kitchen, how we got built, and where we're going. So let's see if I can just move this easily. There we go. So those of us who were founding this and ideating about it early on came together around the idea that we could use a worker cooperative, the cooperative model, to center the needs primarily of formerly incarcerated Black women, because they got so many barriers to reaching their potential in society. So a lot of people feel like they have a X on their back, and we wanted to make it so that folks had a workplace that was liberating, and that where folks could define their own workplace conditions and economic security. That was another piece of it. Adrina, if you want to talk about what it's like coming out and the barriers that come up, feel free to jump in now, or I can keep going.
You can keep going, Camille, and then I'll jump in. Okay.
So the team, so when we were getting started, the development team was 4 of us, 2 organizers, someone who had a business background, and me as a co-op developer. And then we had an advisory board, primarily of formerly incarcerated Black women, because we wanted to center in, and on our team too, there was at least one person who was justice involved on the development team as well, to make sure as we developed this, we were centering the perspectives of those folks who we were purporting to serve. So every major decision, the development team might have brought things to the table. Every major decision was made by the formerly incarcerated Black women on our advisory board, like what business we should launch and what the parameters for how we were going to operate and what our values were. They drove that process. So a couple of the problems, like I mentioned, formerly incarcerated folks, and especially Black women, have immense barriers to reentering. 53% experience unemployment, and a staggering 75% experience homelessness at some point or another upon reentering. Folks living in their cars or just not having any permanent housing, folks vulnerable to the fact that if something happens with your partner or your family and they want you out, you don't have that housing security. So those are some of the major issues. Now, on the other side of what we're doing, we're not just meeting the needs of our members, but meeting the needs of our community as well. We were facing, as we got launched, we were getting launched in the midst of the pandemic. We'd started this planning process back in 2018, October of 2018, and we planned to launch. We'd met the members for the first time after doing this with our advisory board and our development team. We met the members for the first time in December 2019. One of the advisory board members, Colette Payne, is an advocate and activist she's formerly incarcerated Black woman herself, and she's an advocate for them. And she recruited at halfway houses and other transitional homes, other places, saying like, hey, there's a group of folks who want to support formerly incarcerated Black women to start a business. Are you interested? So when we got started, so 2019 was when we first met the members that Colette and recruited. And then we were going to get started in, maybe June, July of 2020. But then the pandemic hit, and there was a lot of requests by our members. They're like, hey, we need economic security right now. And then at the same time, there were a lot of food needs that were unmet. So we're like, can we get launched earlier? And if we get launched earlier, can we start meeting these needs in our community? And so we were seeing already in Chicago, which is a highly segregated city, and one where there's a lot of food insecurity by neighborhood. That's in some neighborhoods, 82% of folks deal with food insecurity. And the pandemic created at least a 50% increase in that. And since we had already started through our advisory and development process thinking about food, and in particular, we were thinking about the model, I'll show you a little bit later. We're like, can we just go into this emergency feeding as a possibility? And so that's where we jumped in. We did about 50,000, or I'll get to that. So what we decided to do was we would purchase food from BIPOC-owned urban farms, as well as traditional vendors as well. Moody would make the meals, these delicious meals, and our whole team would support. And then we would deliver it. The original idea is we deliver it to local schools, nursing homes, and other institutions like that. Now we actually use those same clients, but instead of it for their programming, it was them distributing meals based on food insecurity needs. So we just pivoted, not even who our clients were, but just why we were giving them meals. They weren't hosting as many nonprofit programs anymore because of COVID, but they were addressing food insecurity in their community. So this looks linear, but it's actually a circle. Like we've got food coming from the community and going back into the community. Folks who were even growing that food are some of the folks who ended up eating it. So I don't know, Moody, do you want to come in now and talk a little bit about what it was like getting started?
Yeah, so like Camille said, she had pitched the idea, and Colette had put the planning up in transitional home, which one of our co-owners, Kim, lived in. And all 5 of us members knew her. So she invited all of us, and we met Camille and we sat down. It was more people than us 5 who showed up, but on the second meeting, only 5 of us showed back up. And we started coming up with plans and ideas on what places we want to target and what kind of meals we would like to make. And we came up with ChiFresh, and everything was our idea. And getting started during the pandemic, it was great. Like at first, we had a lot of what kind of meals should I prep and how much food should we be giving out. But it went from like 50 meals for the first 2 weeks to like 150 meals the next 2 weeks, and then 500 meals in like the third week. Like, I look at it as a blessing. I feel like I think it was a big blessing for us. The pandemic wasn't a good space, but pandemic really helped. The pandemic really helped us during that time. I can't see the questions for me.
Oh yeah, I was muted. Sorry. Okay, so just a little bit about our approach. So we really kind of embrace like a lot of the good food, like local hiring, nutritious food, purchasing from local farms. Oh, we got a question in the chat here. What other business ideas did you explore? It sounds like food service was high on your list of business ideas. Yeah, so we started like I said, we just had these set of goals. We wanted to provide economic security. So we wanted to pay at least minimum, we want to pay at least 15 an hour living wage to get started, which isn't a real living wage in Chicago. They call 15 living wage. So We're actually a bit higher than that now, but we wanted a business model that could pay at least living wages. We wanted something that could hire like 50 people or more. We wanted something that wasn't back-breaking. We didn't want people to get injured over time. We wanted something that where we could have a common location. We didn't want to be sending people out to other people's homes and then dealing with all of the way that people treat you outside the business. We wanted our own space, right? And so there were like all these parameters that we looked at when we were looking at businesses. And we wanted something that could be profitable, right? Obviously, as well. So we ended up looking at food service contracting, which is what we landed on, but also laundry and logistics. And the advisory board, the women on the advisory board immediately threw out laundry. They were like, that's not what liberation looks like for me. So we're not going to do that. And then we got a little worried about logistics because it's a highly competitive, rapidly changing industry with a lot of money going into it, like all the last mile stuff and Amazon and everything. And we were just concerned, while there was a lot of opportunity and there's decent margins, and it was accessible jobs, right? Jobs that aren't, that don't require more than a GED or anything like that. That was another part of our list of needs, is that it was accessible jobs. So we did, with all the logistics was just a little bit, and the other thing about logistics is like, the way you win at logistics is being the most efficient. And we were worried that like efficiency was probably not going to be our greatest value, right? But like really good food, connection to community, like those are the values that we could be more competitive in. So thanks for the question, Margaret. And that's a little bit about the process. We also, another piece of our approach is really redefining what institutional food is, because so much food that enters our communities in Chicago, especially in the South and West Side, is through institutions. Like a lot of people are eating either school food, church food, nursing home food, and that's a big chunk of your nutrition for the day. And unfortunately, that food's usually horrible. So, Moody, do you want to, or Adrina, do you want to tap in about like our approach to food and what your kid experienced at their school?
Yes. So, my camera not on. Oh. So when we was coming up with the with food, so my kid would never eat the food in the school. He just, every time he came home, he was just hungry, and I'd be like, "You didn't eat lunch." He'd be like, "No, he's hungry all the time." So we decided to target schools. Kimberly was living in a transitional home. Can you guys hear me? I'm just making a noise. One second. Can you hear me, Camille? Okay. So Kimberly was living in a transitional home where they had a chef, but the chef stopped coming due to the fact of the pandemic and the COVID. So they was not getting any meals at all. So we knew we wanted to target target there. And then before this, I had experience in like a nursing home where most of them just like, they would go down and just eat grilled cheeses and stuff like that. So that's some of the ways we came up with the places where we wanted to target and place our meals, because of the experience that we had, dealing with it.
Thank you. And then also we're not just doing meals, we're also part of a larger ecosystem of organizations that are addressing food inequities and racial justice in the food system. So part of the way that we work is by like embracing this larger movement work to not just improve food quality for our clients, but shift how food is done in Chicago generally. And so this is old. So we did 50,000. So we've done closer to 100,000 now meals since being launched. We've got living wage and benefits. I mean, it's, 30 an hour and benefits that we're doing for folks right now. And we also prioritize, like I said, local food spend. So we've spent probably closer to 100,000 or more on local food distributors and farms, including urban farms in Chicago and, you know, folks in Pembroke and other places like that. So we try to make sure that we're sourcing from local Black-owned businesses to the extent possible. This is like, we're also, oh, I see another question. Where do you source the benefits for the workers? I know I keep getting these emails from the US Federation, but they don't have health insurance yet, but we're getting, but we just use Gusto right now because that's our payroll provider. And so they can get competitive rates because they have so many clients that they refer through there. So we get competitive rates through Gusto on our benefits, but I'm looking into switching over to the US. We're looking into switching over to the US Federation of Worker Co-ops since they are offering more and more benefits in the next couple of years. So we'll be in conversation there. So when it comes to our clients, what we are competitive around is, well, one, our food's just way better than the competitors. And it's, you know, there's folks that for schools and stuff that focus on healthy or whatever, but sometimes it's like, here's a piece of wheat bread. Like, it doesn't matter if it's healthy if the kids don't eat it, right? It doesn't matter. Like, the nutrition doesn't go into their bodies. It doesn't matter. So that's one of the ways that we really shine is like the kids clear the plates. The plates are cleared. It's delicious. And there's, you know, sometimes we've got kale in the spaghetti sauce, you know, we sneak vegetables in and we give them ones that are like, you know, kids tend to like broccoli, especially if it's got butter or a little cheese on it or something like that. But like, we sneak some in and we make sure the kids eat it so the nutrients get into their beautiful little munchkin bodies. And we've got, we're competitively priced. You know, some people are like, oh, and we're like, yeah, that's how much our meals are. So we try to stay near our competitors. There's some, like, we can't compete with Aramark for like, you know, but we also don't think that they should be providing meals in our community because it's, you know, I mean, that's who Adrina's kid gets food from and won't eat. It's so much of it's cardboard. It's mass produced. It doesn't take into account that food is like love and community and it's made with care and the hands that touch it need to be cared for too. Like there's none of that goes into it. So we are for values aligned customers, we're local, we're worker owned, we're both MBE and WBE certified, which is a pain to get certified when you're a co-op. The amount of documentation we had to do for that, but it's worth it. It's nice to be certified. And then again, for values aligned customers, our support of the local ecosystem is a big thing. So when we were getting started as a business, when we decided on food and food service contracting, one of my clients from my consulting firm that was thinking of becoming worker owned was ChiFresh Foods, which is a Black-owned social enterprise that's connected to urban farms in Boston. And so when the team was like, yeah, I think this model makes sense to us, let's do this, I was like, hey, would you all be willing to advise us if I support your worker ownership transition? So we kind of just switched services. We got to ask them all the questions about their business model. They sent us recipes and processes and operating procedures, and I helped them become worker owned. So that they are now about 30-something% worker owned by their primarily, I think it's Cape Verdean and Haitian workers in Boston in their workforce, but they're 30% worker owned. And but yeah, so this is kind of the vision for 5 to 7 years, 120 employees or more, 25 years in business. They have more than, actually it's more than 20 million in revenue, I think it was. in 2020. So we think we can get there a lot faster than they did. It took them 25 years to grow to this size. But when I asked Glenn, who's the founder and former CEO and board chair, he said, and I'm like, hey, how did you get from here to there? And he was like, because, they didn't have 5 full-time, well-paid, benefited employees until like 4 or 5 years in, right? So we're trying to accelerate their timeline and get to where they are now in 5-7 years instead of 25. So we're being ambitious, but having their foundation and not having to relearn the lessons that they learned is a really helpful start. So Adrina, you want to chime in about our new location and what we're doing there?
Yep, I do, Camille. So we got our own space. We are very excited about it. It's on 71st and Cottage Grove. King Drive. I said Cottage. Is it Cottage Grove, Camille?
No, it's King. It's King.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's on 71st and King Drive, and right now it's getting renovated. We're trying to find a day when we're gonna do our groundbreaking. Basically, it's just gonna be a space where we created again for what we want to come into. It'll be bigger, so we can do a lot more meals. We're gonna have because we have t-shirts and we got our own shoes that we have, so we're gonna have a little small space where Sarah can work. She is the designer for our shirts and all our things. We got a bigger kitchen, more to fry. I'm excited because I get a lot of more space to just do a lot of more things in. So we're also gonna sell breakfast there where we can have people come in and just like order breakfast as a sandwich, so they can get familiar with our food as well in our neighborhood. Yeah, we excited about that.
Yeah, we're going from, our kitchen is like 450 square feet, and then we have some extra storage and stuff. This is 6,125. So we're getting much bigger space. We got 20 parking spots too. And we have, 3 walk-in coolers, a walk-in freezer. It used to be a grocery store, so a lot of that infrastructure was already there. We'll have a little conference room and a break room and dry storage as well. So, and then that retail space in the front. So we're really excited about the shift. Construction takes a long time. So we thought we'd be in by now, but construction is what it is. So a question here about funding the startup. Well, I put some of my own funds in. We sold our house in Oakland, and I don't know if y'all know the Oakland housing market, but it was ridiculous. And we were like, okay, how do we use these funds well? So some of the money we put in as non-voting preferred shares and waived our dividends. So it's basically a 0% loan that my partner and I have in the company. And then we did a Gofundme campaign, and we got some startup capital from Capital Impact Partners through their cooperative innovation grant. And that was actually all the start, because we had clients because of the emergency feeding pretty much from the onset. So that was all the startup capital we needed. That helped us buy our equipment. It made it so that we didn't ever have cash flow issues. But I think altogether between the 3, like 80, 50, and another, it was about 150 or so in startup capital. And if you're working out of a food incubator, where they kind of have all that infrastructure, and all we needed to do was buy our initial equipment and make sure we had enough to make payroll and to buy the food, we were fine with that 150 startup capital. Since then we have, especially for the building, we've probably over this past year and a half ended up raising more than $2 million total. A lot of that is the building. But once we demonstrated what's possible, folks were reaching out to us, which was wonderful. American Heart Association and, the Chicago Regional Food System Fund were reaching out to us because they saw the intersection of like how we were serving our members and how we were serving the community at the same time. So yeah, we didn't necessarily need, besides when we bought the new building, we didn't necessarily need too much more startup capital, but that capital ended up allowing us to get the infrastructure that we need to scale. Like we now have our first like consistent market clients. We're working with 2 schools and we provide their daily meals. Like that was the original market that we had anticipated. And we're looking to grow that. And all of the support from folks like American Heart Association and others went to that infrastructure that we needed. And some of the fundraising we did was to just keep the emergency meals going because that was our main source of income. And the need hadn't gone down. I think the pandemic dragged on a lot for longer than a lot of people expected. But yeah, that's what we have for our main presentation, but we'd love to answer any additional questions that you all have. Or if there's anything you want to add, Adrina, before we go into questions.
No, Camille, I'm good.
Okay.
Since we're a small group, if you guys want to come off of mute and just ask your questions, I think that works. I knew Margaret would have one.
Yeah, I have one. Adrina, how did people know each other before becoming co-owners together? Or
Yeah.
did you go through a process of getting to know each other?
No. So, everybody knew each other except Danny. Danny was the only one that we did not know. He was the only one. All of us, all 4 women, were incarcerated together.
But there are some people who didn't know each other, right? Like, did you know Renee beforehand?
Yeah, I knew Renee. I had
you
met
knew.
her upon Kim release. So
Oh.
when Kim came home, I had met Renee a couple of times before the meeting, Camille.
Okay. Well, some people knew each other, and some people had met a couple of times, but yeah, I think.
Yeah, so yeah, that's true. Renee, I didn't know her because when I came into prison, she was getting ready to leave, but she is a friend of Kim, who I was a friend of, who I did time with, Kim and Sarah. And then I met Renee during Kim release. And then Danny, we didn't know him at all. So we met him building the process.
And Colette went to transitional homes, and I think it was Danny's sister that gave Danny the flyer, but I don't know if y'all know Danny's sister at all, but.
Yeah, Danny's sister, we never met her because she didn't come out. But she told Danny to come out, but we never met his sister.
Yeah.
So do all of the owners, do they have food service background, or do each of them have like a different skill set that they bring to the table?
So me and Renee had food service background. Kim just knew she was gonna be our delivery driver. Like when we planned it out, they knew that I would be the cook and Renee would help me prep. Kim, we knew she was gonna be the driver. Sarah was in food service, but she was more like a dishwasher. And Sarah also knew how to draw and things like that. So we knew that she'll do our t-shirts for our logos, and she is our dishwasher. And then Danny worked in the factory. So we knew that he would be the guy that would, by him being the man as well, he would unload our food and put it up. He'll be the strength of the company. And he'll help, all us will help plate up the meals as well.
What's your anticipation about the size of the workforce if you get up to 5,000 meals a day? I mean, that sounds like a tremendous number to me.
So in this in this, well, actually, I'm in the kitchen. Let me let y'all see. I'm gonna try to turn the camera if I can. So in this little space here, we do 500 meals. And I just think that in our new space, we're gonna be able to get it did because we already got the rhythm. I feel like, we set up our assembly, we know how we go, we place our trays. Like now that we got the rhythm and we have bigger space, I think that it'll work out. But we do know that we'll have to get up a little earlier, just to make sure we're prepping and having things prepared so that 5,000 meals can get out on time.
Yeah, I think we probably would step up to closer to 1,000 or 1,500 first. And then, 5,000 requires hiring, and we want to be intentional about who we're bringing in and what they're doing and making sure that, because, we as a team have been working together this whole time, but it's different bringing new folks in. Although I feel like Mama J integrated pretty easily into the team because it was Kim's mom came in to support. But yeah, as we grow, we want to be really intentional about keeping the same culture, or maybe if it's different, making sure that we keep our values as we grow, make sure it still stays a liberatory environment and that we're not replicating what it was like to have a bad boss by being that bad bosses ourselves, doing all that. So I think growing will come with a lot of, we're hoping to be very intentional with it, and it'll be a lot of learnings.
So the meals that you do are lunch. So is that like the meal that you cook and deliver?
Yeah, Moody, Adrina, you want to chime in?
Yeah, so the meals that we're doing now is lunch. We do cook them and we deliver them fresh every day. Is that what you asking?
Yes. So you just do lunch. You don't do like lunch and dinner. So
we do. We have some dinner clients. Like
okay.
Today we have a 5:30 meal. So, but our main meals is during lunchtime.
Yeah, so the school meals are lunch right now. So we've had a couple more evening meals. We're partnering with one of the local churches, Fourth Church. And so we're feeding their deacons tonight. But we've also fed, like they have a bunch of events that they do, or a lot of meetings that they do. And so they're kind of using us as their default caterer for those meetings. And then we're also thinking about providing the meals for their tutoring program. So churches are really high potential place for us to find like a value aligned, someone who's interested in really living out their values and working with us based on that. So it's been great working with the churches. And we're working with Trinity Church as well on a Thanksgiving event and a Christmas event. So we're really excited about that.
I wonder, as you grow, have you thought about bringing in sort of interns or folks that could get experience who are in hospitality programs, food and hospitality programs through a local technical college or something? Two things occur to me. One is those folks then may come out of those programs knowing a little bit more about the cooperative model and may find that of interest in their own professional development. But secondly, if they end up in hiring positions in food service and hospitality, they will have had an experience working with returning citizens and maybe more inclined then to hire because they've had that positive experience. And so I'm just curious. I know that's probably a little bit down the road, but I wonder if that could be part of the future plans.
Yeah, so we have a lot of folks who want to be employment pipeline for us because they see the benefits. We're always like, well, just give us a contract and then we'll be able to hire more people and then we can be more of an employment pipeline for you. But so everyone from, Cook County Jail to the local workforce development training programs, the urban agriculture programs, anyone who provides like a food service manager certificate as part of their community work. So a lot of folks want to feed in, and we're absolutely, once we have the new space, we don't have a lot of space to have more people in that smaller kitchen. But once we have more space, I think we'll definitely be open to thinking about how to best choose our partnerships for our values and goals on that workforce development side.
Are you in a kitchen incubator right now?
Yeah, we're in the hatchery. So the hatchery is a large facility. I don't remember how big it is. I don't remember how big it is, but it's a large facility on the west side of Chicago. It has like, I think 20 plus kitchens. They have different options. You can rent a small kitchen, rent a large kitchen, or like lease a small kitchen, a large kitchen, or you can just by the hour use their shared kitchen. So we lease a large kitchen. So we have our own private kitchen space inside of the hatchery, and that's where we make our meals out of. And then they have separate like freezers and coolers and dry storage space that we use to supplement the space that we have inside of our kitchen. And they do have programming. So like marketing support. It's mostly geared more towards retail and consumer packaged goods, just because the majority of food businesses, like small food businesses that come through there, like have more of that inclination. Sorry, my phones are blowing up and I'm like trying to make sure none of it is like something I definitely need to pick up. But yeah, so some of the programming has been helpful for us. And it's also, like the big food service, food distributors will come to the hatchery. Whereas if you were just your own small business, they might not come to you, right? So there are definitely some benefits to being in there.
And then you rented like the equipment?
We bought the equipment. So that's what
the equipment.
I put in that capital impact part. We own a double stacked convection oven, 2 reach-in freezers and a reach-in refrigerator. And the hatchery gave us like this old stove that we have. I don't know. We taking that with us, Adrina? We taking the stove, or are we just going to flat top when we go there?
No, we taking our stuff.
Everything we bought.
That's it.
Hey, Kim. And then what else do we own? A fryer. We definitely have a fryer. Our fried chicken and fried fish and fried green tomatoes are all really, really good. So yeah.
Yes, they is.
We just found out. Tell them we just found out Sarah is great at making the fried green tomatoes.
Oh, Sarah, we gotta go to the store, y'all. We sorry, and get something.
One of the questions I have has to do with, so how long were your owners from the time they were released till starting to work, be a part of the co-op, to be an owner of the co-op? What was that time frame, and how did they support themselves prior to becoming part of the co-op or during that startup phase?
Yeah, it varied, right? I feel like a few folks were out for years, and then a few folks were just out for a couple of months, right? Adrina? I think that's right. Oh, you're still muted, love. Adrina, you're still muted. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Him had been home like what? You had been home like
Months. Like
a few months. Me, Sarah, and Renee had been home years. And I don't know. I think Danny probably had been home months. So yeah, 2 had been home just months, and 3 of us had already been home probably years.
And Sarah had a job in the kitchen, right, in the back of the house. Although during the pandemic, folks got laid off, which was part of the reason we needed to speed everything up.
Yeah.
You had an evening job, right? And that was...
I was actually on the radio. I was doing a radio job, and Kim was working at the airport.
Flying food.
Flying Food. She was working in a food company,
Washing their dishes.
washing dishes. And then Renee was also in a food company.
But it all got shut down during the pandemic. So it was really nice, not all of it, but a lot of it got shut down during the pandemic. So we were able to
Mhm.
pivot. But food service is a place where a lot of people get back in because there's there's flexibility.
We've got a few more minutes. Are there other questions? See, Dave is unmuted.
Yeah, hi. Thanks so much for sharing your story. It's really amazing to me and compelling. I wanted to just add a little background for myself. I actually work at Purdue University Northwest in Hammond, Indiana. So we're just basically, I checked like the maps. We're only about a half an hour away by driving from your new location that you're getting ready to start up. But I'm a staff member who works for the College of Business over here. And I'm also one of the kind of founding members that we started up a sustainability initiative here at our university. So when I see this, I was like, wow, this is really aligned with a lot of things we're talking about here at the university. In addition, we have a hospitality and tourism management program that's under the College of Business. So I was kind of curious if, like, sometime this spring, you might be available to kind of share your story and maybe come out here for a day and talk to some of the students, not just about the cooperative business model, because I don't think we talk about that really at all in most of our business classes, but also kind of what you're doing on the food service side and providing the services that you provide for the community. Because we're talking about doing some urban agriculture in the future, planting a food forest because we have an arboretum, some things like that. So I'm curious if you might be interested in, checking us out and maybe visiting for a day and sharing your story here.
Yeah, I don't think the whole team can come down, but probably someone can make it down, right?
Do a little
Yeah.
field trip.
A couple of us.
A couple, maybe 2 or 3 of us can come.
But that's the opportunity.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be great. I'll contact you offline and we'll start working on planning something out for this spring, hopefully.
Okay.
And Dave, I'm going to follow up with you because I would 100% agree that co-ops are not taught in B school.
No.
And that's a huge oversight.
Mhm.
And see if there's not a way for us to put something together. I know that in a system like
Sure.
Purdue, trying to get in, but if we could work with an individual professor to maybe have some kind of presentation about co-ops as a viable alternative to other types of business models, just so people have an understanding.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of students, we've done a lot of entrepreneurship in the past, and I think that that's like a really good, kind of alternative plan for people who want to do more aside from just starting a business, who are passionate about other things and like to participate in the community. I mean, we're here in Hammond, it's a really diverse community. We have a lot of first generation students. We have a lot of non-traditional students as well. So I think that it's probably a great place to share the cooperative story and also what you're doing over at ChiFresh.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great. I'll definitely follow up with you on that.
Yeah, please do. I've got an inside track to the dean here, so.
Okay. Anything else? Well, Adrina and Camille, thank you both so much for taking the time. I know this is an incredibly busy part of your day, so really do appreciate you sharing your story with us. As I had said earlier, we're going to come for a visit in early December, so I'm really looking forward. Will you be in the new location or still in your current location?
We'll still be in the current location.
Okay.
We hoping for the new location for January.
Okay, awesome. All right, well, thanks again. We are really excited
For having us,
and
and it was great to
Yeah.
see a couple familiar faces here and some new faces as well. So thanks so much, and we really appreciate y'all hearing our story, and we'll be in touch.
Yeah. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
guys.
Good work. Good work. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.